Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I'm glad you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. I'd like to start this session by appreciating you so much for supporting this channel. If you wish to support us, please just hit the subscribe button and then you can hit the like button. Now, I promised you that in this channel, we are going to exhaust this issue of server extensively. And I promised to deliver more content on it since most of my viewers, YOLENO audience, requested that I focus more on this server issue. So, I will do exactly as advised by you, though I'll be mixing with other content sometimes. But then, yesterday, after doing that little analysis about the purported confusion within the Kenya Kwanza government as far as the utterances which were made by Kimani Ichung'wah and Kipchumba Murkomen, I mentioned something to do with IT, to do with the server delete policy in the US. Though I have not concluded on that research, but then I managed to stumble upon something that is so interesting in these matters of server issues. Did you know that there is a very important task in managing a server, and that is mirroring of a server? With that concept, John Njoroge, who is the AZIMIO's One Kenya Alliance trusted IT consultant, can be able to create a copy of SMARTMATEC server for purpose of server audit. So before you talk about this issue extensively, let me explain what mirroring of a server means. Server mirroring is a process in network management through which an exact replica of a server is continuously created on runtime or when the server is operational. That is to mean that if SMARTMATEC has a server there that hosts the forms, a server that they say that is so critical in a way that they cannot allow anybody to access it, then what can be done is a mirror of that server is what can be created so that the IT people within the AZIMIO One Kenya Alliance can use that mirrored server to perform their forensic audit. I don't know whether you understand my point here. Mirroring of a server is basically creating a copy of that server. So like for instance, last year, Supreme Court gave a directive. That one we are not going to say that it's not true. They gave a directive to SMARTMATEC to provide AZIMIO One Kenya Alliance, the IT person, with the details they want. The details were the access to servers. So they indeed provided access to particular servers. And I want to remind some viewers in this channel that I said that SMARTMATEC allowed AZIMIO One Kenya Alliance access to certain servers. That was true. Some people say that they didn't allow. Of course they did. But, and I said in that analysis of hacker and server that is not what AZIMIO were looking for. As AZIMIO were looking for a server that had the formula that receives and performs certain tasks. So that is what SMARTMATEC could not allow because they cited security issues. They cited, mambo ya infringement of rights. You know, those are the kind of things they used. They even went to an extent of sharing that letter, and it was shared globally. In most of the social platforms. So mirroring of a server is what John Njoroge requested for. I remember that time. The only thing is that nobody has picked up that narrative and shared it. But I decided to pick that narrative that John Njoroge asked for, mirroring of a server. Because definitely, if maybe for instance, if you have an ID, if you say that if you give me your ID copy, your original ID, maybe naeza poteza. So what can you do? Because the most important thing are the details in that ID. What do? You make a copy of the ID and then you give out that copy so that you retain the original. So what SMARTMATEC are supposed to do is simply make a copy of that server but retain the main server and give AZIMIO One Kenya Alliance the mirrored server, the copy of that server, so that AZIMIO can now go into the extensive forensic audit. I don't know whether I'm making sense here, ladies and gentlemen. I like us to understand this concept perfectly well. The concept of mirroring a server. I think this is what can solve the problem for AZIMIO. Because if Smartmatic say that security issues are challenged, that if you access that server, then it's gonna maybe security breach or anything, then they should make a copy of that server, give AZIMIO a copy of that server, so that AZIMIO can now do what they're supposed to do, and that is forensic audit on the server extensively. I emphasize on the word extensively. It is not just looking at the things, looking at the logics, looking at the formulas and saying, okay, fine, I've seen it. No, extensively means even going to an extent of looking at those forms which were submitted from the polling stations and seeing whether those forms were registered there and what happened to those forms to the next destination. So that is the concept of mirroring of a server. That is what I found very interesting. In fact, this is more important than even the anti-delete policy that we were supposed to discuss on. So this mirroring of a server solves the problem of AZIMIO. So with this approach of server mirroring, sidhani kama IBC na SMARTMATEC wataepuka mirroring of a server. Wakisema kwamba ni security itakuwa breach, tukiwapatia access to ile, okay fine, give us a copy, let us look at the copy, because the copy of your ID is exactly what the original ID looks like. The only difference is that one is a photocopy, the other one is an original copy that is sent from the national government. So mirroring of a server is one thing that AZIMIO One Kenya Alliance should advocate for further. George Njoroge mentioned it. It was not taken seriously by the courts when the courts just brushed that narrative away of a server and assumed that AZIMIO were okay with the directive. They just said that their registrar has advised them that everything is intact. So this latest discovery, ladies and gentlemen, of server mirroring puts SMARTMATEC in a very defenseless position. Because let us start again from the Supreme Court directive to the part where SMARTMATEC talks about infringement to their intellectual rights. George Njoroge, the lead IT consultant in AZIMIO, requested server mirroring concept. IBC did not take into consideration that last request, so they brushed off the narrative from George Njoroge. If I'm SMARTMATEC and I want to clear my name, because I believe they will not do that, but if I'm them, I would just allow that server mirror, because any technical person, any intellectual or any professional knows that it is the right of Kenyans. We are the consumers of that application, which they sold to us, and it was sold in billions, if I'm not wrong. So that application which was sold to us is what SMARTMATEC is supposed to make sure that we trust in it. As at the moment, we don't think that solution meets the needs of Kenyans. If it cannot provide a way for that kind of audit to be done, then it doesn't meet the needs of Kenyans. In fact, Kenyans should not even invest in it going forward. Until that time when they will allow it, that is the only time naona kama hii mjadala itaenda vizuri. Lakini kama hawezi kuallow, sasa mjadala utaendaje vizuri? Hata wewe mwenyewe ukiona mjadala kama huu hauwezi enda vizuri ikiwa bado SMARTMATEC wana play ile hardball. They are playing kwamba ile wanajidai wako very resistant to this kind of narrative. It won't make, ladies and gentlemen. So kindly share your thoughts below the comment section. What do you think about this issue of server mirroring? Do you think that is what AZIMIO should pursue? Because I personally, I think AZIMIO should push for this server mirroring. If the SMARTMATEC say that the breach of the intellectual right itakuwa imeonekana kama wata allow ile access direct to the very, very important and crucial server, they should create a mirror of that server ili iwe na ile guided audit, a guided audit of these details. A guided audit means itakuwa kuna team ya AZIMIO hapa na team ya SMARTMATEC. They go through the mirrored server. AZIMIO IT wanauliza maswali, SMARTMATEC wanajibu. They do their own test run. AZIMIO watakuwa wanafanya their own test runs with certain forms. Then the SMARTMATEC form, the SMARTMATEC system responds to that test run. So that is the only way for them to clear their name. But until now, no way out. So ladies and gentlemen, kindly Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, give us a like, and then don't forget to hit the notification bell so that every time we upload such videos, you will always become the first person to get notified. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay blessed until we catch up again in our next analysis.